Chapter 18. The Function of Evil. This country is very confusing. Gopal thought softly. Why would you say that, my friend? The Nagas are obviously the people who are evil, right? Almost everyone seems to agree. And yet, the Nagas helped a man in need, in the interests of justice. That's not how evil is supposed to be. A good point, great Neelkant. Considering the mistake I have already made, I am not about to attack anyone till I am sure. A wise decision.
So do you think the Nagas may not be evil?
How can I answer that, my friend? I do not have the wisdom to find the answer. I am not the Neelkant. Shiva smiled. But you do have an opinion, don't you? Shiva waited for Gopal to speak. When the Vasudev Pandit didn't, Shiva smiled even more broadly, giving up this discussion. Suddenly, a disturbing thought struck him. Please don't tell me the Nagas also believe in the legend of the Neelkant. Gopal remained silent for a moment.
Shiva repeated, frowning.
Panditji, please answer me. Do the Nagas also believe in the Neelkant legend? As far as I know, great Mahadev, most of them do not believe in the Neelkant. But do you think that would make them evil? Shiva shook his head. No, of course not. Silence for some time. Shiva breathed deeply. So what is the blessed answer? I have travelled through all of India, met practically all the tribes except the Nagas, and if none are evil, maybe evil hasn't arisen. Maybe I am not required. Are you sure it is only people who can be evil, my friend? There may be attachment to evil within some. There may be a small part of evil within them. But could the great evil, the one that awaits the Neelkant, exist beyond mere humans? Shiva frowned. I don't understand. Can evil be too big to be concentrated within just a few men? Shiva remained silent. Lord Manu had said, it's not people who are evil. The evil exists beyond them. It attracts people. It causes confusion among its enemies. But evil in itself is too big to be confined to just a few. Shiva frowned. You make it sound like evil is a power as strong as good, that it doesn't work by itself but uses people as its medium. These people, maybe even good people, find purpose in serving evil. How can it be destroyed if it serves a purpose? That is an interesting thought, O Neelkant. The evil serves a purpose. What purpose? The purpose of destruction. Why would the universe plan that? Let's look at it another way. Do you believe there is nothing random in the universe? That everything exists for a reason, that everything serves a purpose? Yes, if anything appears random, it only means that we haven't discovered its purpose just as yet. So why does evil exist? Why can't it be destroyed once and for all? Even when it is apparently destroyed, it rises once again? Maybe after much time has elapsed, perhaps in another form, but evil does rise and will keep rising again and again. Why? Shiva narrowed his eyes, absorbing Gopal's words. Because even evil serves a purpose. That is what Lord Manu believed, and the institution of the Mahadev acts as the balance, the control of that purpose, to take evil out of the equation at the correct time. Take it out of the equation? Asked a surprised Shiva. Yes, that is what Lord Manu said. It was just a line in his commandments. He said that the destroyers of evil would understand what he means. My understanding of it is that evil cannot and should not be destroyed completely, that it needs to be taken out of the equation at the right time, the time when it rises to cause total annihilation. Do you think he said that because the same evil may serve the purpose of good in another time? I came here for answers, my friend. You are only throwing more questions at me. Gopal laughed softly. I am sorry, my friend. Our job is to give you the clues that we know. We are not supposed to interfere in your judgment, for that could lead to the triumph of evil. I have heard that Lord Manu said good and evil are two sides of the same coin. Yes, he did say so. They are two sides of the same coin. He didn't explain any further. Strange, that doesn't make sense. Gopal smiled. It does sound strange, but I know you will make sense of it when the time is right. Shiva was silent for some time. He looked out across the temple pillars. In the distance, he could see the people of Vaishali outside the gates, waiting patiently for their Nilkant. Shiva stared hard, then turned back towards the idol of Lord Matsya. Gopal, my friend, what is the evil that Lord Rudra took out of the equation? I know the Asuras were not evil, so what evil did he destroy? You know the answer. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Think about it, Lord Nilkant. What is the enduring legacy of Lord Rudra? Shiva smiled. The answer was obvious. Thank you, Panditji. I think we have spoken enough for today. May I offer my opinion on your first question? Shiva was surprised. About the Nagas? Yes. Of course, please. It is obvious that you feel drawn to the Nagas, that you feel that your path to evil lies through them. Yes. That can be due to two reasons. Either evil exists at the end of that path, or evil has caused its greatest destruction on that path. Shiva took a deep breath. You mean the Nagas may be the one who suffered the most at the hands of evil? Maybe. Shiva leaned back against the pillar. He closed his eyes. Maybe the Nagas deserve a hearing. Maybe everyone else has been unfair to them. Maybe they deserve the benefit of the doubt. But one of them has to answer to me. One of them awaits justice for Brahaspati's assassination. Gopal knew who Shiva was thinking about. He kept quiet. Sati stood in front of Atithigwa in his private chambers. Standing next to her were Kali and Ganesh. The stunned king of Kashi did not know how to react. Sati had returned from Ichhawar that morning with 27 lion skins, proof of the destruction of the man-eating pride. Special prayers had been intoned at the Vishwanath temple for the brave Kashi soldiers who had died there. Kavas had been promoted to the rank of major. The courage of the Branga platoon had also been acknowledged. The Brangas of Kashi would be exempt from taxes for the next 3 months. But this specific problem was particularly naughty for Atithigwa. He did not know how to react to the presence of the two Nagas beside Sati. He dare not expel the relatives of the wife of the Nilkant from his city. At the same time, he couldn't allow them to live openly in Kashi. His people would consider it a crime against the laws of karma. Superstitions about the Nagas ran deep. My lady, said Atithigwa carefully, how can we allow this? Kali was staring at Atithigwa, livid at the humiliation being meted out to her, a queen in her own right. She touched Sati's arm. Didi, forget this. Sati just shook her head. Lord Atithigva, Kashi is a shining light of tolerance within India. It accepts all Indians, no matter what their faith or way of life.
Isn't rejecting some noble and valiant people just because they are Nagas going against the very reasons that make your city a beacon for the downtrodden and marginalized?
Atithigva looked down. But my lady, my people, your highness, should you give in to your people's biases, or instead lead them onto a better path? The Kashi king remained silent, wavering. Please do not forget, your highness, that if the Kashi platoon has returned and the villagers of Ichhawar are alive today, it is due to the bravery of Kali and Ganesh and their men. We would all have been killed by the lions. They have saved us. Do they not deserve honor in return? Atithigva nodded hesitantly. He looked out of the window of his private chambers. The Ganga flowed languidly, cradling the reflection of the eastern palace on the far bank, where his beloved sisters Maya led a miserable life, practically imprisoned. He would have loved to challenge the fear of the Nagas in his people, but had always lacked the courage. The fact that the Nilkant's wife stood by her family gave him hope.
For who would dare to challenge the Nilkant?
Everyone knew how Shiva had abolished one set of unjust laws, so why not the same for the Nagas too? The king turned back towards Sati. Your family can stay, my lady. I am sure they will be comfortable in the wing of the Kashi palace allocated to the Lord Nilkant. I am sure they will, replied a smiling Sati. Thank you so much, your highness. Shiva was standing at the head of the ship, Parvateshwar next to him. I have doubled the speed of the lead ship, my lord, said Parvateshwar. Shiva had asked Parvateshwar to ensure a quick arrival of their fleet to Kashi. He had been away from his family for more than 2 years. It was too long a time, and he missed them dearly. Thank you, General, smiled Shiva. Parvateshwar bowed and turned at the Ganga again. Shiva spoke with a hint of a smile on his face. So, how is married life, General? Parvateshwar looked at Shiva with a broad smile. Heaven, my lord, absolute heaven, a very intense heaven though. Shiva smiled. Normal rules don't seem to apply, do they? Parvateshwar laughed out loud. Well, Anandamayi continues to update the rules as each day comes along, and I just follow them. Shiva laughed loudly as well and patted his friend. Follow those rules, my friend, follow those rules. She loves you. You will be happy with her. Parvateshwar nodded heartily. Anandamayi told me that she has sent a cutter to Ayodhya to inform Emperor Dilipa of your nuptials, said Shiva. Yes, she has, said Parvateshwar. His Highness will be coming to Kashi to receive us. He has promised to hold another complete extravagant celebration for us in Kashi within 10 days of our arrival. That should be fun. Yes, my lord? Asked Nandi. Nandi and Bhagirath were with Shiva in his cabin. When we reach Kashi, stay close to Prince Bhagirath. Why, my lord? Asked Bhagirath. Shiva raised his hand. Just trust me. Bhagirath narrowed his eyes. My father's coming to Kashi. Shiva nodded. I will be the prince's shadow, my lord, said Nandi. Nothing will happen to him as long as I am alive. Shiva looked up. I don't want anything happening to you either, Nandi. Both of you keep your eyes open and remain careful. cried Sati as Kartik ran into her arms. Kartik was only 3, but due to the somras, he looked like a 6-year-old. He screamed, "Ma!"
Sati twirled her son around happily.
"I have missed you so much." "I missed you too," said Kartik softly, still unhappy about his mother leaving him behind. "I'm sorry I had to go away, my child, but I have very important work to do. Next time, take me with you." "I will try." Kartik smiled, seemingly mollified. He then pulled his wooden sword out of the scabbard. "Look at this, Ma." Sati frowned. "What's this?" "I started learning how to fight the day you left. If I was a good soldier, you would have taken with me, no?" Sati smiled broadly and plonked Kartik on her lap. "You're a born soldier, my son." Kartik smiled and hugged his mother. "You know how you always ask me for a brother, Kartik?" Kartik nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes." "Well, I have found a wonderful brother for you, an elder brother who will always take care of you." Kartik frowned and looked towards the door. He saw a giant of a man enter the chambers. He was wearing a simple white dhoti, and the angavastram was wrapped loosely across his right shoulder, his immense stomach jiggling with every breath. But it was the face that startled Kartik, the head of an elephant on top of a human body. Ganesh smiled broadly, his heart beating uncertainly, anxious for Kartik's acceptance. "How are you, Kartik?" The normally fearless Kartik hid behind his mother. "Kartik?" smiled Sati, pointing at his elder brother Ganesh. "Why don't you say hello to your Dada?" The boy continued to stare at Ganesh. "Are you human?" "Yes, I am your brother," smiled Ganesh. Kartik didn't say anything, but Sati had taught Ganesh well. The Naga held out his hand, displaying a succulent mango, Kartik's favorite fruit. The boy was at once delighted and surprised at seeing a mango so late in the year. He inched forward. "Do you want this, Kartik?" asked Ganesh. Kartik frowned, drawing out his wooden sword. "You are not going to make me fight for it, are you?" Ganesh laughed. "No, I'm not, but I will charge a hug from you." Kartik hesitated and looked at Sati. Sati nodded and smiled. "You can trust him." Kartik moved slowly and grabbed the mango. Ganesh embraced his little brother, who immediately got busy, biting strongly into his favorite fruit. He looked up at Ganesh and smiled, whispering between loud slurps, "Wow! Thank you, Dada." Ganesh smiled again and patted Kartik lightly on his head. The lead ship docked lightly onto the Dashashamedh Ghat. As the gangway was being drawn, Shiva's eyes desperately sought Sati. He could see Emperor Dilipa and King Atithigwa standing at the royal platform with their families. There was a multitude of Kashi citizens thronging the ghats. But where is she? "I'll find her, my lord," said Bhagirath as he disembarked, closely followed by Nandi. "And Bhagirath?" "Yes, my lord," said Bhagirath, stopping. "And after all this is over, please take Purvaka to the king's palace. Ensure that he's comfortable in my family's area." "Yes, my lord," said Bhagirath as he darted away, ignoring Dilipa, his father, and the emperor of Swadweep. But Nandi was surprised at the changes visible in the emperor. Dilipa looked at least 10 years younger,
his face glowing.
with good health. Nandi frowned before turning to catch up with Bhagirath. Shiva stepped off the gangway. Dileepa directed one long hard stare at the retreating form of his son and shook his head before turning towards the Neelkant. He bowed low before Shiva, touching his feet. "May your destiny continue to spread prosperity, Your Highness," said Shiva himself, bowing his head with a namaste to Dileepa. Veerbhadra, meanwhile, had found Kritika and spun her in his arms. An ecstatic yet embarrassed Kritika tried to free herself, blushing as she asked her husband to restrain his public display of affection. Adithigva also stepped forward and sought Shiva's blessings. Having completed the formalities, the Neelkant turned, searching for his family. "Where is my family, Your Highness?" "Baba!" Shiva turned with a broad smile. Karthik was running towards him. As he lifted his son into his arms, Shiva said, "By the holy lake, you have grown really fast, Karthik." "I missed you," whispered Karthik, holding his father tight. "I missed you too," said Shiva. His pleasure at seeing his son turned into surprise as he recognized the mouth-watering smell of ripened mangoes. "Who has been giving you mangoes so late in the season?"
Just then, Sati appeared
in front of Shiva. A smiling Shiva held Karthik to his right and wrapped his left arm around Sati, holding his world close to him, oblivious to the thousands staring at him. "I have missed you both so much." "And we missed you," smiled Sati, pulling her head back to glance at her husband. Shiva pulled her close again, eyes closed, taking pleasure in his family's loving touch, his wife and son resting their heads on his shoulder. "Let's go home." The carriage was moving slowly down Kashi's sacred avenue. The Emperor of Ayodhya and the King of Kashi followed in their carriages, while the brigade that had travelled with Shiva marched behind. Citizens had lined the streets to get their first glimpse of their lord after more than 2.5 years. Shiva sat comfortably, Sati next to him, and Karthik on his lap, waving to the crowds. Both Shiva and Sati spoke simultaneously. "I have something to tell." Shiva started laughing. "You first." No, you first," said Sati. "I insist, you first." Sati swallowed. "What have you found out about the Nagas, Shiva?" "Surprising things, actually. Maybe I have misjudged them. We need to find out more about them. Maybe they are not all bad. Maybe they just have a few bad apples amongst them, like in all communities." Sati sighed deeply, finding some release for the tension coiled inside her like a snake. "What happened?" asked Shiva, staring hard at his wife. There is something that I have also discovered recently. Something very surprising. Something that was kept hidden from me until now. It is about the Nagas." "What?" "I found that..." Shiva was surprised to see Sati so nervous. "What's the matter, darling?" "I found out that I am related to them." "What?" "Yes." "How can that be? Your father hates the Nagas." "It could be guilt more than hatred." "Guilt?" "I was not born alone." Shiva frowned. "A twin was born along with me. I have a sister." Shiva was shocked. "Where is she? Who kidnapped her? How did this happen in Meluha?" "She was not kidnapped," whispered Sati. "She was abandoned." "Abandoned?" Shiva stared at his wife, at a loss for words. "Yes, she was born a Naga." Shiva held Sati's hand.
Where did you find her? Is she alright?
Sati looked up at Shiva, her eyes moist. I didn't find her. She found me. She saved my life. Shiva smiled, not at all surprised to hear yet another tale of Naga heroism and generosity. What's her name? Kali, Queen Kali. Queen? Yes, the queen of the Nagas. Shiva's eyes widened in surprise. Kali may be the one who would help him find Brahaspati's killers. Maybe that's why fate had conspired to bring them together. Where is she? Here in Kashi, outside our palace, waiting to meet you, waiting for you to accept her. Shiva smiled, shaking his head and pulling Sati close to him. She is your family. That makes her my family. What's the question of my not accepting her? Sati smiled slightly, resting her head on Shiva's shoulders. But she is not the only Naga waiting for your acceptance. Shiva frowned. Another even more tragic secret was kept from me, said Sati. What? I was told 90 years back that my first child was stillborn, as still as a statue. Shiva nodded, as though sensing where this conversation was headed, holding his wife's hand tighter. That was a lie, sobbed Sati. He was alive. He's still alive. Shiva's jaw dropped in shock. You mean I have another son? Sati stared up at Shiva, smiling through her tears. By the holy lake, I have another son. Sati nodded, happy at Shiva's joy. Bhadra, drive quickly. My son awaits for me.